The constant crying at night is unbearable. Make it stop.
I never thought someone would seriously say such lines, in this day and age.
Get out already, go camp somewhere. Fine. Huh?
Just don't complain no matter where I sleep. My name is McKenna, 28 years old. Currently on maternity leave, I worked as a freelance illustrator. I've loved drawing since I was a child. Despite being told by parents and friends that making a living from drawing is impossible, I kept practicing. As a result, I started getting significant projects. By the way, the biggest project so far was illustrating a famous novel that even became the basis for a movie. Not only for the substantial reward, but also for the pride of having my art seen by many, I cherish the jobs I've taken. Before becoming independent and freelance, I worked for a design-related company. I met my husband Judah through work. He praised my art, saw infinite potential, and supported my dream of becoming independent someday. He is a charming and understanding man, 10 years older than me. I believed I could find happiness with him, and we got married. And now, after about a month since giving birth to our first child, a son named Timothy, I am back home from my parents' place with him. The chaotic atmosphere in the house caught me off guard, and I find myself in a state of mental paralysis.
Finally, you're back. Hurry up and clean this mess.
The floor barely had space to step on. Discarded clothes were scattered, and none had been washed. The room reeked of rotting garbage, making it painful to breathe, and I hurried to the window. Since giving birth to my son, I've been living at my parents' house. However, my mother passed away when I was still a student. It was a bit of a dilemma to rely on my single living father, but Judah was super busy for work and my dad offered help, so I went back home for just a month. During that time, Judah's mother, who lives nearby, was supposed to be checking on him, but why is everything in such a mess?
Well, you see, Mom hurt her back, so she couldn't come to do the housework. It was tough. But it's good you're back now. Hurry up and clean. I just got back, and did not expect this at all. I need to feed Tim first. You can do it after. I'm counting on you to finish it today.
With that, he quickly retreated to the bedroom. Despite being the one who made the mess, he seemed to have no intention of doing anything. Before marriage, he was dependable and had a comforting presence, but after marriage, he completely changed. Being betrayed is exactly what it felt like. His true nature was a childish, self-centered man who couldn't be satisfied unless he was taken care of first. I'll never forget those days of suffering during morning sickness.
Kenna, I'm hungry.
He demanded meals with a tone that implied it was natural for me to do it. Despite not eating anything but jelly, since morning and me being bedridden, he even came to wake me up just to ask me to move. Despite explaining the situation multiple times and asking him to prepare his own food, he casually said, "Pregnancy isn't an illness. Do you not care about me?" And uttered lines like a bad husband in a movie. Reluctantly, trying to make something light and low-smelling, he drops a bomb with,
I want a pork schnitzel. Give me a break. Just passing by the supermarket's deli section makes me feel like I'm going to faint from nausea.
Even with tears appealing to him, he becomes extremely sulky and irritable.
No, I want a pork schnitzel. Pork schnitzel. How about I buy it for you? Or we could order delivery. No. I want you to make it, and I want to eat it freshly fried.
He puffs his cheeks like a child, thrashes his limbs on the sofa, and makes unreasonable demands. He probably thinks he's cute, but it's unbearable for the one on the receiving end. Or rather, it's disgusting. I seriously want him to keep doing this forever. But, fed up and wanting to be released soon, I give in to his demands. even with a scarf on my mouth, you can't completely prevent that unique smell from frying. Even when I finish it with nausea and dizziness, my face isn't reflected in Judah's eyes, as he happily eats the schnitzel. There are plenty of other crazy episodes my husband comes up with, like when he suddenly wanted to go on a trip, and I ended up accompanying him with a big belly, or the times he insisted I play games with him when I was feeling dizzy with sleepiness. Despite explaining multiple times that pregnancy hormones make me extremely sleepy, he just doesn't get it. Well, maybe he intentionally refuses to understand, because he values himself the most. With so many instances like these, the image I had of Judah before marriage has completely crumbled. Honestly, I don't even have confidence in raising a child together with him after giving birth. Despite considering the possibility of divorce, I endure it without thinking about this word. All for the sake of the child about to be born. In today's world where single-parent households are no longer uncommon, the value of having both parents together is crumbling. Yet, the reason I couldn't completely let go of my attachment to my husband was the hope that seeing our child would change him. However, needless to say, that hope would be shattered into pieces. The first night after returning from my dad's house, I managed to clean up the mess my husband made, breastfed, and put our newborn son to sleep. As expected, a baby who has just been born naturally requires nighttime feedings. I was told that they need to be breastfed every 3 hours, but my son only lasts for 2 hours and immediately cries loudly, hungering for milk. Despite his small size, Tim has an unexpectedly loud cry for a newborn. To avoid disrupting Judah's sleep, we decided to sleep in the living room, since we have to wake up multiple times during the night.
Hey, it's too noisy.
In the middle of the night, my grumpy husband appeared, shouting as I was preparing milk.
It's noisy. What are you doing? Make him quiet. I'm making milk, can't you see?
Apparently, our son seems to be unsatisfied with the amount of breast milk, so I make formula every time I breastfeed. I have to cool down the water to lukewarm, which takes quite some time.
If you could produce enough breast milk, we wouldn't need to spend extra money, and the house would be quieter. Why doesn't it come out? Do you lack maternal instincts? Huh.
I was irritated by the unjust frustration from Judah, but our baby comes first now. Finally, Tim, satisfied, after drinking milk, fell asleep.
Anyway, don't let him cry. It's too noisy, and I can't sleep. What are you talking about? It's normal for babies to cry. Besides, to deal with night crying, both Tim and I sleep in the living room. What else do you want me to do? If it bothers you, wear earplugs or something. Who can sleep with those uncomfortable earplugs? Don't just rely on me. You're the mother, so figure something out, okay?
After unilaterally yelling, he returned to the room. I was boiling with anger. If all mothers in the world could somehow manage night crying, parenting would probably be easier. I understand that not being able to sleep is tough, but I'm in the same boat. Yet, he selfishly plays the victim and shouts, "It's outrageous." Naturally, the night crying continues, leading to arguments with Judah each time. In the end, he even told me to leave the house.
If it's just me, fine, but kicking the baby out of the house. It's not too hot or too cold at this time of year. Stop overreacting. Dealing with my sleep being disrupted is much more difficult.
Judah said unbelievable things with an unapologetic face. Those he said to me that day were so shocking that I could hardly sleep. The next night, we had another huge fight. Despite repeatedly asking him to wear earplugs, he adamantly refused. Even when I nursed him in the farthest spot from our bedroom, his cries reached Judah's room, who continued to yell and berate me. On top of dealing with the dizziness from nighttime breastfeeding, I had the added stress of trying to consider it to my infuriated husband. Initially, he opposed the idea of my 1-month stay at my dad's place. He claimed it was unthinkable to take a break from taking care of his own surroundings. However, during my pregnancy, after learning that babies cry at night, he surprisingly agreed to my leave. Nevertheless, unable to rely on my elderly father living alone forever, I was back within a month.
I should have stayed at my dad's house a little longer.
Maybe I should consult with my father even now. But he'll probably ask for the reason, and I wanted to avoid causing unnecessary worry. When fights with Judah and Tim's night crying were wearing me down mentally, Judah almost stopped coming home. He was likely staying at his parents' house to escape the night crying. I didn't pay much attention to it. About a week after he stopped coming home, I finally received an invitation for the 1-month checkup. The maternity clinic where I gave birth had reduced the number of appointments due to the impact of the contagious diseases. In reality, it had been about a month and a half. Fortunately, Tim completed the checkup without any issues. When I inquired about the short breastfeeding intervals, I only received the cliched response that some babies are like that. After finishing the checkup, Tim and I went shopping at the supermarket and returned home. However, no matter how much I tried to insert the key, the door wouldn't budge. What on earth? In a panic, I checked the key.
Huh? The key is different. Did I go to the wrong house?
I double-checked multiple times, thinking I might have come to the wrong house. However, that didn't seem to be the case.
No way.
It was an unbelievable story, but my intuition whispered that Judah had done something. I called his phone multiple times, but he didn't answer. Meanwhile, Tim started to fuss. Unable to enter the house, I had no choice but to buy bottles and powdered milk, and rushed into a nearby hotel. After settling down somehow, I waited for the night and called my husband.
Hey, Kana, where are you now? I don't have any food. Huh. I couldn't get into the house, so I'm staying at a hotel. Did you do something? The key is weird. Oh, right. I forgot about that.
He laughed on the other end of the phone.
Why the heck? No matter how many times I told you, you wouldn't stop the baby from crying. I didn't want to do this either, but I had no choice to protect myself. You're the worst.
As I expressed my contempt, he suddenly retorted.
Do you have any idea how much I've been suffering from lack of sleep lately? Don't come back until the night crying stops. Go live outside or something.
I couldn't contain my anger at this unbelievable statement. Still, I managed to restrain my anger while pinching my arm.
Fine. But remember, you won't complain no matter where I sleep. You can't expect a 0-year-old baby and me to live outdoors.
After saying my piece, I hung up the phone. Then, I grinned while looking at the contents of my wallet. He still didn't know that there was a credit card in my wallet under his name. Today, I happened to need it for an errand, and luckily, I had it.
Timmy, we are having a new life starting from tomorrow.
From the next day onward, I moved from hotel to hotel with Tim. Since I was kicked out with just the clothes on my back, I had to buy everything again, including things for Tim. All expenses were paid with Judah's card. We decided to stay in hotels, advertised as baby-friendly, to avoid bothering other guests with night crying. Again, all these expenses were covered by Judah's card. These baby-friendly hotels had plenty of baby goods, and I could spend quality time with my son. Continuing a lavish lifestyle using Judah's card for a month. My phone was blowing up with calls from Judah. He must have received a terrifying bill. Of course, there would be an alarming amount. After all, Tim and I have been living in hotels for the past month.
Hey, an insane bill arrived. Did you steal my card? Don't say such nasty things. I had it in my care because of your errand. You forgot and kicked me out. I did say, right? Do not complain, no matter where I stay.
He fell silent with frustration. Later, at his request, we arranged a discussion just between us. A friend of mine agreed to take care of our son at short notice.
For the amount you've spent, get a part-time job or whatever and pay it back properly. What you did is theft, you know? If you don't repay, I'll report you to the police.
He is furious. Despite having kicked me out with just the baby, he's the one getting upset.
Are you in any position to be angry? Especially when you're having an affair. Huh?
In front of my momentarily speechless and sweating husband, I displayed a set of photos. Yes, he stopped coming home and was living with his affair partner, a team member from his workplace. I had suspected his actions, so I secretly hired a private investigator to look into him. And, it turns out, I got concrete evidence that he was completely in the wrong. What's even more unforgivable is that, on that day he kicked me and our son out, he brought his affair partner into the house. There's a perfect photo of Judah and his affair partner, happily entering the house, arms around each other.
Forgive me. It was just playing around with her. You're the most important to me.
Apologizing as if turning his hand, he tries to get close. There was a time when I found such behavior cute, but now it only infuriates me.
No, impossible. I want a divorce. If we divorce now, I'll offset what I spent as compensation.
I proposed waiving the compensation to Judah. I intend to receive child support properly, but I no longer felt the need for compensation.
Don't you think it's a good proposal? It means you paid less in compensation than the market price.
My whisper seemed to move him. And finally, he agreed to the divorce. By the way, my revenge is not over yet. I set the condition for Judah to offset the compensation he pays me and the amount I spent on a month-long luxurious lifestyle. However, there is nothing written about claiming compensation from the affair partner. I had no intention of forgiving the other woman. With the help of a lawyer, I went through legal proceedings and received $10,000 in compensation from her. However, she is not keeping quiet. Feeling unfairly forced to pay money, she went to Judah's workplace, shouted loudly, and exposed his misdeeds to everyone.
Wait, don't say that.
But it was too late. Trying desperately to defend himself made him look even more untrustworthy, and no one at the company trusted him. In the end, he deviated from the career track and was transferred to a subsidiary in the countryside. In the period leading up to the transfer, he was looked at with disdain, gossiped about, and ignored by female employees, making it quite a tough time. As for me, with my father's help, I found a daycare for Tim and resumed my work as an illustrator. If I can receive orders like before, I can earn twice as much as Judah used to contribute to our living expenses. Even on my own, I'll raise my son splendidly. Honestly, I feel sorry for taking a father away from Tim so soon after his birth. Even so, I believe that it's better to have only a healthy father.
Tim, you slept well yesterday.
At 3 months old, the nighttime crying has improved a bit. Still, a small baby cries loudly to convey their feelings. We, as parents, have an obligation to listen to that voice.
Are you hungry?
That's why, a father who would kick us out of the house just because the baby is crying. We don't need them, right?